This video is kindly sponsored by Babbel. Firstly, apologies for my fingers looking like this. I'm currently going through, I guess, what I would call my Fight Club era. So yes, it's fine. Like all Fight Club eras, you get over it pretty quickly. So it's okay. It's okay. But we have far more important things to talk about. Catherine Deneuve has no time for plastic surgery. At age 64, she said the following: "I'm not frightened of aging. I don't like it, but aging is a fact. I'm lucky though, because in France, interesting roles are still available to me. Getting older is not nice for anyone, not for men, not for women, and even more difficult for people who depend on their physical appearance. But it's not a drama. I know some people who are much more stressed than I am. And also, I live in Europe. I think it would be much more difficult if I lived in America." Catherine Deneuve and her references to the difficulties of aging in America in comparison to Western Europe specifically is indicative of a rather prevalent stereotype surrounding Western European women, specifically French women. And by French woman, I mean specifically the mythical French woman. She is not only able to smoke from adolescence into old age without rotting her teeth or, I don't know, dying like the rest of us, but she is also able to somehow age naturally. And by naturally, I mean like this, and not like this. And this aging naturally is done in ways that women beyond France could only dream of. But you know what I also dream of as a woman? I dream of being able to experience new cultures, the richness and beauty of other cultures and people. I dream of being able to read in different languages, to become more erudite. And that is where, oh so serendipitously, today's video sponsor Babbel comes into the picture. Babbel is one of the top language learning apps in the world. I personally started using Babbel because I went to Portugal, and as a consequence of not just immersing myself in Portuguese culture and music, but increasingly Brazilian culture and music, I really want to go to Brazil one day. The crucial reason why I chose Babbel is because Babbel has been scientifically proven to help you start speaking a new language in a mere 3 weeks. And this is mainly because Babbel's language lessons have been carefully curated and designed by over 650 language experts and professionals. And you can really tell by Babbel's emphasis on real-world conversations and dynamic learning tools, from games to magazines to articles that you can read and really not just understand a language, but importantly, a culture and people. Now I get it, and I personally find language learning difficult. It's a struggle to stay on track and to stay motivated. And this is why I love how personalized and also, as a consequence, how non-judgmental Babbel is. I can choose how long or how short my lessons are. I can catch up when I want to. I can also recommit and refocus my language learning when need be, which has really helped me to reach my language learning goals. Right now, I spend 10 to 20 minutes a day learning new words and phrases, and it fits perfectly into my schedule.
Vocês vêm de carro ou de bicicleta?
Vocês vêm de carro ou de bicicleta?
Você vem para a minha festa hoje?
Você vem para a minha festa hoje? So why not try something new this summer? Or just as importantly, get language ready for your summer travel plans. Let me know if you're going to do anything or go somewhere interesting in the summer holidays. I'm really interested in where people go because I don't travel. Unfortunately, I have a South African passport and the whole visa thing is just too much money and too much of a hassle. But, you know, I learn in preparation for when I will finally be able to travel. You get up to a whooping 60% off your Babbel subscription by using my unique link down in the description box and pinned to this video. And you know, I always like to know, what language would you like to learn and why? I have a lot of nostalgia for Portugal, and especially for the amazing Portuguese and Brazilian people that I met whilst I was in Portugal. It was my first time and only time leaving the UK, and so I just want to keep that memory alive, and Babbel has helped me to do that. Now remember, that is 60% off your Babbel subscription by using my unique link, and also a 20-day money-back guarantee. What a deal. Thank you so much to Babbel for sponsoring today's video. And now let's move from Portugal to Brazil, back to France. Looking at French stars like Brigitte Bardot, then and now at 89, Fanny Ardant, then and now at 75, Catherine Deneuve herself, then and now at 71, all my all-time two favorite French actresses, Juliette Binoche and Isabelle Huppert, at ages 60 and 71 respectively, it is no wonder that the modern world has an absolute fixation and fascination with mythology mythologizing the French woman. With books like French author Muriel Gilliano's French Women Don't Get Fat, or French Woman Don't Get Fat Cookbook, and French Women Don't Get Facelifts. The stereotype and myth pervade unchallenged and clearly adored by many young women on social media and in cult cinema. According to Giuliano as well, who is based in New York, French women approach aging differently to American women. French women on average are more accepting of aging. Rather than trying to turn back the clock I just mentioned, they want to look good at whatever age they are. Part of it is a benefit of their environment. In France, there is a saying, life begins at 50, whereas in the US, I have heard women in their 30s complain they are too old. France does not have the same youth-worshipping culture. A woman in her 40s and 50s is still seen as an object of desire, and not because she looks younger. I feel the difference myself when I go to Paris. Men look at me and flirt, and what woman wouldn't feel a boost of confidence from this? It's motivation to not let things go, for sure. There are differences on the beauty front as well. French women are more likely to use a variety of creams and serums to prevent aging, rather than going to plastic surgery as a first step. And they are also less likely to pack on pounds as they age. They know they don't look 25 anymore, but despite a few wrinkles, they can still look and feel good by staying active and engaged and putting in a bit of effort.
And also because the French woman likes to have, the greatest amount of pleasure for the least effort, we tend to make like 2 or 3 meals out of one. So we'll make, a chicken dish and leave the rest for 2 days later with a salad. We make a ratatouille and 2 days later we'll serve the leftover as an accompaniment for a meat or fish dish. And so, the next day your dinner might take 10 minutes to prepare. Okay. So it's great. I researched this book for 3 years and talked to a lot of my French women friends, and they're not celebrity, they're like you and I. And so they do fine tuning and they do small steps and inexpensive steps. And then these, what I could talk, my food lifts as opposed to facelifts that help you slow down the aging process. Things like we know about, like berries, but also very important food like oysters that we don't think about eating more of. And they are actually a magic potion for slowing down the aging process because they contain all the ingredients that we need to eat more of as we age, from antioxidant to vitamin E to iron, potassium, magnesium.
The issue with wholeheartedly believing such myths, and trust me, Giuliana has fallen prey to her own mythologizing, is that it allows ideals to supersede the darker traits of reality. Lifelong sexualization and objectification is not all flowers and rainbows. Marguerite Duras' autobiographical novel La Amant details her age gap romance with an older man while she was a 15-year-old girl living in French Indochina, Saigon. The film and recent, at least English editions of the novel still heavily romanticize a relationship that was a clear instance of child exploitation and abuse. And I would argue that it is down to such a pervasive myth of the French woman as an object of eternal beauty and eternal desire, which by definition means that she is of desire even as a child who is seemingly yearning to be desired and objectified by all who see her. And I would again argue that this is quite pervasive. Adele in La Vie d'Adèle is 15 years old when she begins her very explicit relationship with an older woman. Camille, a 15-year-old girl in Un amour de jeunesse, or Goodbye First Love, tries to unalive herself when her 19-year-old boyfriend, whom she holidays with alone in the mountains, as you do as a 15-year-old girl, leaves her to go backpacking with his friends. In her best-selling memoir, Consent, writer and publisher Vanessa Springora detailed being groomed and abused by infamous French writer Gabriel Martineff from the age of 14, exposing the prevalence of a culture of child abuse within the French publishing world that is only now being taken seriously as a consequence. Basically, the sexualization of French girls is a thing, and it doesn't help girls or women anywhere, let alone in France, to allow such myths to pervade reality, dark reality. And all of this has to do with, and is a perfect instance of, as I've tried to emphasize, the mythologizing of womanly beauty. Apparently, French women don't get facelifts and have somehow magically cultivated the art of aging not just naturally, but naturally and beautifully. Not to fear, however, France is the within the top 15 countries ranked by number of plastic surgeries a year. The mythical symbol of slim, always Caucasian, ageless French beauty also fails to account for the ethnic diversity of especially Paris and French colonial history, nor does it account for the fact that 47% of the French population are overweight. So there's a thing which, in my humble opinion, actually makes France and her people far more evocative and interesting. A quote that is often attributed to Catherine Deneuve is that at a certain age, supposedly at age 30, a woman has to choose between her face and her ass. Basically, the theory goes that a woman has to decide between whether she wants her body to be slim or her face to be youthful. Importantly, she can't have both. And in my opinion, the greater commercialization and popularization of plastic surgery and cosmetic procedures hasn't exposed this point and this choice nearly as readily as the sudden popularity and hype around weight loss injections. The likes of Ozempic, Wegovy, and Mounjaro cost up to $1,000 per month. And their popularity has meant that many who need the drugs for diabetes and obesity-related illnesses haven't been able to refill their prescriptions. Off-label usage is superseding approved usage, and I have a video all about this and all about my opinions on Ozempic, especially the more corporate side of it. If you are interested, I will link it in the description box. Meanwhile, and while many can't refill their prescriptions, Hollywood is shitting themselves to death and is weirdly starting to prove Catherine Deneuve's hypothesis correct in their bid to attempt, bizarrely, the feat of marrying slimness with youthfulness in the way that apparently the mythological French woman has been able to. In an odd sort of way, weight loss injections made many think that they wouldn't have to make the choice. Like a horror film, many are realizing that they made a choice which they didn't even realize they had made in the first place, and something has gone terribly wrong.
I'm not going down for something I didn't do. If anyone deserves to get punished, it should be Michelle.
The human face is a fascinating thing, and I only really started to realize this after watching an incredible show, which you have to watch if you have never watched it, because it is essential watching for anybody who has never watched it, and you have to watch it. Seriously, you have to watch it. Called Dairy Girls, written by Lisa McGee. Set in 1990s Northern Ireland during the latter years of the Troubles, the show follows the final secondary school years of 5 girls, which obviously includes James, and their parents, whilst humorously chronicling the Northern Ireland peace process. One of the Dairy Girls, 15-year-old Claire Devlin, is played by the now very well-established Bridgerton star Nicola Coughlan. And what shocked me was discovering that Nicola Coughlan was 31 years old when she started playing Claire Devlin. Wow, what an actress. Blown away. Still to this day, blown away. I rewatched an episode of Dairy Girls for this video. Blown away. No one wants to face the fact that being chubby keeps you young looking. This woman is 37, by the way. And this tweet caused a stir. A lot of hater bitches in the comments who can't stand the idea of a chubby woman looking beautiful. A lot of you sincerely believe that fat women deserve to have nothing, and it makes you livid to see them have anything. Please get right with God, because this is not in fact a healthy reaction. She seems like a very sweet woman, and she looks very young and contented. Just be happy for her, my goodness. And as I'll be detailing in this video, there is in fact some interesting truth to this. Many of the things you do in the name of staying in shape, counting calories, tallying fat grams, logging hours at the gym, begin to do a number on your face as you close in on 40. You start to lose facial volume, which can cause eyes to look slightly sunken, cheeks to hollow out, and skin to lose its firmness and elasticity. Maintaining a low BMI exacerbates the problem because fat is the very thing that helps plump out lines and wrinkles. The old face, young body paradox is being taken to heart with the advent of Hollywood's latest weight loss fad. As celebrities and the wealthier among us have been able to lose considerable amounts of weight with the off-label use of semaglutide injections, social media is beginning to notice something ghostly. The emaciated, gaunt faces of many celebrities as of late has been dubbed Ozempic Face. I see it every day in my office, said Dr. Frank, who said he coined the term Ozempic Face to describe the condition. A 50-year-old patient will come in and suddenly she's super skinny and needs filler, which she never needed before. I look at her and say, how long have you been on Ozempic? And I'm right 100% of the time. It's the drug of choice these days for the 1%. Rebel Wilson recently acknowledged in her autobiography autobiography that she's been using Ozempic to help her maintain her weight loss. A weight loss journey that she's been on since, and that she's been open about since 2020. Prior to her weight loss journey, Rebel was awarded $4 million in a defamation case against Biomedia, which, among other things, purported that she had been lying about her age. Rebel would allegedly give her age as 29 when she was, in fact, God forbid, 35. And the greatest sin of them all was that she got away with it. Now, if that isn't an example of fat face privilege, then Rebel Wilson may have been fat, but she always looked young and could clearly get away with not disclosing her age to producers, to interviewers, and to the general public. Her chubbiness, for many, really played into the stereotypical funny fat girlfriend she was systemically cast as. Her lowest rated films, The Almond and the Seahorse and Senior Year, both came after her weight loss and venture into more serious adult and lead roles. Based on the theory, at least, the fat face privilege was no more, and the talent which lay beneath was seemingly lacking. Rebel Wilson looks like a completely different person. I never recognize her in photos anymore. If these weren't on her IG account, I would not have been able to tell that any of these photos are of Rebel Wilson, even if you held a gun to my head. And the Ozempic face, which some have claimed that Rebel Wilson is now donning, has been spotted throughout the streets of Hollywood. Allegedly, John Goodman, Elon Musk, Jessica Simpson, Scott Disick, Sharon and Kelly Osbourne are the latest victims of the frightening side effect of losing large amounts of weight all at once. Their faces have followed suit, resulting in an overall aging of appearance. And as I said before, the human dermis cannot bounce back from drastic physical conditions like the sudden and dramatic loss of large amounts of body fat. And this is particularly the case if you are over the age of 35. But something that I have noticed is how readily the tag Ozempic face is being increasingly applied to celebrities who are simply older. And this opens up a very intriguing conversation about thinness. And I think a very good representation of this conversation and about how really quite sad it can be is Sarah Jessica Parker.
When you look in the mirror, you don't see a good-looking human being. You don't feel...
I mean, I'm presentable. I don't really like looking at myself. I like a fitting and getting in costume. I don't know. I mean, I think I'm fine.
You don't do a facelift, Botox, all this other shit.
I think about all of it. I'm like, I ask people all the time, like, is it too late? Like, is it like now people be like, well, you don't know, not only look rested, you look like an entirely different human being. I honestly think like I missed out on the facelift. Like that be to me like the thing, like an old fashioned good one that you have when you're like 44.
You think you should have done it?
44. I've heard stories.
What?
I've seen some horror stories lately. I don't know. I'm glad you didn't do it.
But I do understand why people make the choice, because there is so much emphasis put on, especially women, and primarily women, about looks. I mean, even last year when we first went on the air with the new season, and there were just so many endless articles about, aging and aging gracefully, and, Sarah Jessica's hair is gray. And I was like, first of all, it's not, but who cares? I'm sitting next to Andy Cohen, whose head is covered in gray hair, and you've not mentioned that at all. So I understand why women feel like there is so much chatter, peripheral and opinions. So I don't think it's wrong. I think people should do whatever they feel makes them feel better walking out the door, frankly.
In another podcast interview, Sarah Jessica said the following.
I mean, the show was so physical. Yeah. It was a lot that it was like honestly hard to keep weight on, you know?
No, I don't.
Well, I'm not saying that to brag because I don't like I don't like being thin. Yeah. I mean, I don't think that's everybody. Yeah. A lot of people have their kind of their cross to bear, and if you met my siblings, it's the same genetic makeup, and I don't particularly think or celebrate being thin.
No,
I really don't. I would prefer to have weight, but That's just the way my body works.
Yeah.
At 59, Sarah Jessica is slimmer than most women her age in the US. And this has gotten her accusations of donning what has been called Ozempic Face due to the fact that she is simply a very slim and thin woman. That is, she apparently hasn't aged well. Paparazzi photos implying that she's aged terribly have littered the internet since the airing of And Just Like That in 2021. Yes, white people age like spoiled milk in Mississippi sun, and it usually starts gearing up like that in their mid-late 20s. Sarah Jessica Parker was in her early 30s when Sex and the City started and looked every bit of 50. You're not wrong. Sarah Jessica Parker was out here looking like a poor, unfortunate soul. I'm actually speechless. All I can really say is that we are clearly obsessed with thinness, whether it is in praise or in condemnation, whether dubbed as Ozempic Face or aging naturally. I do personally think that a lot of the Ozempic Face discourse is very telling of a conflict between two very modern things right now. I would say that the conflict is between, on the one hand, the body positivity movement failing in making, especially women, not desire thinness as a beauty standard, and on the other hand, the language of body positivity clearly being in vogue whilst being overweight is readily becoming the norm, and therefore thinness is weirdly enough becoming a new kind of status symbol. We've moved from the toxic heroin chic of Kate Moss and Paris Hilton to the manufactured curves of the Kardashians, all the way to the real and oftentimes unhealthy curves of Tess Holliday and other fat activists, all the way back to a new kind of toxic skinny that is not only unhealthy but highly sought after because being curvy and or fat is too easily accessible nowadays. Historically, obesity and fatness were seen as symbols of social status and of wealth. And even in ancient Iranian medical texts, obesity was seen as a symbol of a woman's complete health. Now, however, obesity is recognized as a civilization disease. It is a disease that is afflicting the poorest in society the most. And in our age, so fixated with labels and ostentatious displays of status symbols, who wants to be associated with the poverty-stricken, with the disease-ridden? Cosmetic procedures like the BBL are becoming more financially accessible to more and more people, meaning that the Kim K look is more readily accessible to anyone if she just saves up enough, or even just face tunes well enough. No wonder the Kardashians no longer want to look like the Kardashians, because now anybody can look like them. Where's the status symbol in that? The scarcity of weight loss injections, accompanied by the hype around them, as well as their exorbitant cost, makes them a luxury item. Having Ozempic Face can express both resentment and a perplexing reality. People just do want to be thin in the end. A friend of mine, the author, a vocal member of the body positivity movement, told me resignedly over dinner recently. Not that we use the word thin anymore, of course. Thin doesn't sound adequately 2024 anyhow. We talk about health, about reducing inflammation, along with our risk of diabetes and heart disease, all of which weight loss does. Another friend of the author said the following: if Ozempic was only going to make me healthier, if it wasn't going to make me thinner, do you think I'd bother? Realistically, and considering who I'm going to talk about next, I doubt many people would be taking Ozempic if health and not weight loss was guaranteed.
I met somebody who lost weight from Ozempic and it changed their life. Not you, Mum. You weren't like huge to begin with.
Yeah, I was.
No, you weren't. And it, like, how it changed their life.
Now, I have had a parasocial relationship with the Osbournes for years. They were the reality TV family before the Kardashians as a brand were even conceived as something worth taping. The Kardashians have to thank the Osbournes for everything that they are now. The Osbournes were pushed out of the nest so the Kardashians could soar. You know, when I was still a young, devout Pentecostal, I watched the Osbournes and I came to the conclusion that Satanists were actually pretty dope, and I don't know why we hate them so much. The Osbournes as reality stars really sanitized a lot of the occult and satanic imagery in a way that I haven't actually seen spoken about, but which is very interesting when you see the merging of that imagery with an LA-based British family that is completely dysfunctional, aside from a super manager that is also the mother, not just to her children, but especially to her husband.
Sharon! Sharon!
And my entire intrigue around the Osbournes is purely Sharon. Sharon Osbourne is an anomaly to me, and not just because of everything that she's gone through at the hands and remaining brain fragments of Ozzy Osbourne, but also because of what she has put her body through in the name of eternal youthfulness. If anybody takes the myth of the eternally beautiful French woman to heart, it is Sharon Osbourne. Now, Sharon's weight has fluctuated throughout her impressive career and life, but since the initial season of The Osbournes aired in 2002, she has maintained a particular look. She had a facelift in 2002, and by 2007, she revealed that she had spent over $530,000 on plastic surgeries and enhancements. It has intrigued me how such a strong, modern woman who has literally done it all and continues to do it all can exhibit perhaps some of the most severe and crippling fears of aging and being irrelevant that I have ever seen. It is not only sad to see, and I really do feel sorry for her a lot of the time, but it is also a mind fuck because it goes completely against the narratives which we as modern women cling onto and are sold. That is, having it all, family, wealth, a husband, power, success, and respect, will inevitably give you all the confidence and self-assurance in the world. Sharon Osbourne started using Ozempic in December 2022, and by November 2023, she had gone from this to this, losing 42 pounds in that short time frame. Not only does she represent how appealing weight loss injections are to especially older women trying to shed pounds, but also how a fear of aging can really, I think, stunt you. And I do say this with love, but also with caution. Watching Sharon Osbourne over the years has shown me a woman who invests all of her energies outward. And by outward, I don't mean just on physical appearances, but most importantly and especially on other people, namely on her family and the family brand, on managing her family and on managing the family brand, and especially on managing Ozzy Osbourne and cultivating his reputation and image. Now, forgive me for being a little bit philosophical about a reality TV star family, but I must insist. Because the brand was ageless, timeless, and immortal, her only value seemed in ensuring that she herself, indistinguishable from the brand and Osbourne empire, remained as ageless, timeless, and immortal as her creation. And what better way to do this than to ensure that you physically strive toward being ageless, timeless, and immortal. And thus we get to the era of Ozempic Face Sharon Osbourne and the family's very peculiar and bizarre obsession with Ozempic and justifying their use of it.
About this so-called wonder weight loss drug, I wanted to find out more.
Right.
In fact, I haven't been this weight since I had cancer.
That's not a good thing.
No, it's not.
No,
it's
but
not.
you look great. You do look great. Do you feel good?
Yeah, I do.
You weren't like huge to begin with.
Yeah, I was.
No, you weren't.
I think it's amazing and I think it's great for them. There are a million ways to lose weight. Why not do it through something that isn't as boring as working out? People hate on it because they want to do it. And the people who hate it on the most, the people who are secretly doing it or pissed off that they can't afford it.
Greetings, peasants!
But yes, you've got to love how tone deaf the family is, especially considering that there is a shortage of semaglutide injections for people who actually need it for medical reasons, for obesity-related conditions and illnesses, and for type 2 diabetes. Reality TV stars. But as you can see, poor Sharon has lost more weight than is healthy, and she has thankfully clocked onto this.
I can't put on weight now. And I don't know what it's done to my metabolism, but I just can't seem to put any on because I think I went too far and then I can't put it back on.
She does, however, represent somebody obsessed with staying on trend because of everything I've just said about the need many in Hollywood have to stay relevant and, more importantly, exempt from the rest. But how to fix the downside that is Ozempic Face? I think that when I'm talking about how to fix O-Face, I'm also inadvertently just generally talking about how we can fix our very disjointed and, I would say, for lack of a better word, rather toxic association with our face and aging. I recently watched a biographical sports film called Nyad, brilliant film about Diana Nyad, starring 66-year-old Annette Bening and 61-year-old Jodie Foster. And I was struck by a roundtable discussion the actresses had with their subjects after the fact. What struck me was the representation of aging women as living unashamed lives as older women, but also how how goddamn perfect these women looked, haloed in warm lights and perfect makeup. And not just because of her award-nominated role in Naiad, but also because of her leading role in the infamous True Detective anthology series. Jodie Foster has been everywhere at the moment. And I've really noticed something. The comments that have been directed at Jodie Foster as of late differ drastically to the comments that I've seen directed at, for instance, Julia Roberts in this photograph, or in general at Sarah Jessica Parker, even though all three of these women are aging naturally. That is, they haven't had any work done. They believe in aging naturally and accepting the aging process. Even though apparently aging naturally is something that all women should aspire toward, that at least based on how people speak about it on social media, aging naturally is equal to aging gracefully, and it is superior to aging cosmetically. Jodie Foster is having, quote, the time of her life in her 60s. And I do think this has a lot to do with the fact that the media and public discourse around her aging, not just naturally, but aging so well naturally, has been overwhelmingly positive. The thing is, and in my humble opinion, serious actresses who have won awards and gained respect from the Academy are allowed to age naturally. And this is especially the case when they've been talented enough to get roles that have not been wholeheartedly dependent on their looks, especially leading award-winning roles. Take, for instance, Annette Bening, Dame Judi Dench, or Meryl Streep. Sex and the City, like it or not, is all about looks. And therefore, sadly and obviously, everybody is going to be absolutely obsessed with the aging process and the looks of Sarah Jessica Parker.
Yeah, this year's been a good year for me, I think. There's something about turning 60 that's been so wonderful about letting go of some of the baggage of trying to compete with your younger self, you know, and there was a lot of pressure to compete with my younger self, and I'm so glad that I can be a character actor.
It feels as if the likes of Sharon Osbourne are trying, as Jodie put it, to incessantly compete with their younger selves, which is what I think this whole conversation really boils down to. The fact that women are encouraged to choose between their face or their ass by the age of 30 is testament to how this competition with the self begins at an incredibly young age. And based on the TikToks I've seen of young school-age girls making videos about their anti-aging skincare routines, this is clearly becoming an issue at a younger and younger age. The fact that women are encouraged to choose between aging naturally and aging cosmetically, and that inevitably you will regret whichever decision you make because that is how the world works and that is how judgment from everybody else works, is also another testament to this very, very, I would say, harmful decision that we are seemingly made to make.
I honestly think like I missed out on the facelift.
This competition with self is also weirdly present in the comments that people make about especially older women celebrities who firstly decide not to get any work done, but secondly also look incredible for their age if we just consider how they look as human beings and not as marketable products. When people compliment Jodie Foster on aging naturally, and I would say that this has a lot to do with the fact that she is not only very slim, but that she also has a beautiful face and clearly seemingly has not had to make this decision which all women have to make. There is something a little sad about the reality that 99% of women will never have the money nor the time to cultivate the natural beauty look, nor the resources to have the kinds of beauty regimes or the fitness regimes which allow an individual to age not just naturally and naturally in a good way, but also gracefully. Aging well naturally clearly requires not just the lifestyle, but especially the money, which goes behind a lifetime of cultivating a natural beauty. And you know what? More than often, most of us just don't have the genes that we see in others, which we, in my opinion, oftentimes wrongly attribute to their moral character, to a plastic surgeon, or to just a really good mattified base. All in all, I don't believe that there is really any fixing O-face, just like there's no no fixing faces in general, nor is there any real fixing of the societal pressures and expectations which mold us, nor the individual choices that people make regarding their bodies and aesthetics. All in all, I really don't believe that there's a fixing of anything aside from how we treat others. The only thing we can really fix is being a little nicer to one another, and importantly, trying to sympathize with one another's often very deep-rooted and personal insecurities and fears when it comes to aging and the weight we all carry. I have realized in watching people like Sarah Jessica Parker, like Jodie Foster, that there really isn't a choice between your face and your ass if you decide not to make that choice. Of course, you can live with regret, as we all do, but that also, I think, is just the human experience. There's really no choice if you are able to find value in and of yourself which transcends the physical realm. And this is something that I see in many older women who I am fortunate enough to call friend, and in celebrities and public figures who are older women, who are older people in general, and who really exhibit the value that one can find within oneself. And I think embracing the aging process is more important than ever, as we are all getting older and are living, thankfully, much longer lives. But of course, the choice is, at least to some extent, yours. Thank you so very much for watching this video. I know it is probably a long one just based on looking at how much footage I have filmed, so I do appreciate it if you have gotten to this point. Thank you so very much for all of your support. I really do appreciate it. If you could, I'd really appreciate it if you could follow me on Instagram. I'm trying to post a little more there and being a bit more open and a bit more human. It's a bit of a difficult thing for me personally, but I am trying. So I'd really appreciate it if you followed me there. Thank you so much to my patrons, as always, for your continued support of me and the channel. You're honestly incredible, and I cannot thank you enough. And thank you so much for watching. We are nearly on 200k subscribers. I cannot believe this. Thank you so much. I am ecstatic, and I will have a Q&A video coming very, very soon. Do let me know your thoughts about this video, about this topic, about Ozempic face, about fat face, about French face, about any face in the comments. I would love to hear your opinions and your thoughts on this topic. It does interest me. I am currently going through a major interest in the physical, in beauty and beauty standards and all of that. I think it's very fascinating, very important, and is often just seen as sort of trivial stuff, I guess, but I do think that it is important and very interesting, and I am just fascinated in what you have to say. You always enlighten me with your comments, so I appreciate it greatly. And please be respectful as well to others and their experiences as well. I mean, we all know this, but please do. Anyway, that is all from me today. Thank you so much again for giving me the time of day, and thank you to Babbel for sponsoring this video, and I will see all of you very, very soon in the next one.